Hey guys, this is Pete on the beat. In this video I'll present to you my latest article in which I'm sharing with you my personal experience with intermittent fasting. I'll tell you how it changed my life and also go through all of the important lessons I've learned because of it. But firstly I'll cover two things: for how long I've been actually doing it and what are all of the types of IF I've ever tried. I started experimenting with different forms of IF at the very end of 2013 and continue using one as I'm filming this video. My introduction to it was through the most popular and commonly used version, the 816. By making my daily fasts longer and longer, I later transformed that into 618 and then into 420. Same process continued until the last months of 2014, when I finally got rid of my feeding window and started eating once per day. The total number of years of me doing IF is close to 5. For a little less than 4 of them, however, I've been almost strictly following the 1 meal a day plan, aka OMAD. I'm saying almost because once in a while I as well incorporate 1 to 2 weekly 48-hour fasts. When that happens, I do not consume food for more than 5 or 6 times throughout the course of 1 week. The reason of clearing all of those details is because I want to help you understand that everything I'm about to say comes from the perspective of someone who eats 1 meal a day. Although all of the other protocols I just mentioned also were great, nothing is better than OMAD in my book. You should also keep in mind that most of the things I'll tell you in this video are scientifically proven, but the others are not. The second I figured on my own through the practices of self-experimentation, self-tracking, and by listening to my own body's signals. Honestly, I believe that by doing enough research, anyone could find plenty of evidence to both support or deny particular statement or method. And because of that, nowadays I prefer doing things more intuitively, whether or not they're backed by science. So with all of that being said, let's begin. There was a thing I noticed almost immediately after I began skipping most of my daily meals. That was the change in my energy levels during my fasting and feeding windows. No, my diet wasn't as good as it became later, but I was already exercising with weights and even doing no-fap for quite a while. Despite all of those things, the difference in my overall vitality was extremely pronounced. While through my fasting I felt alert, full of energy and completely awake, that was certainly not the case only few moments after the beginning of my feeding phases. Sometimes I felt like two different people, a very high energy one and a low energy one. Yet, the more I was shortening the duration of my feeding phase, the longer I was able to maintain my levels of energy high. In total controversy to what I've been told since forever, it appeared that fasting and not eating food is what truly gives me energy. I also learned that having a lot of energy mostly boils down to not wasting any. And since food digestion is one of the most energy demanding processes in our daily lives, fasting helps tremendously. Regardless of the meal's macronutrient profile, in order to turn the newly ingested food into energy, the body always has to spend some. Available to us, that energy, however, could be used in other, certainly more fun and productive ways. For instance, getting stuff done, exercising, or being involved in some creative endeavors. Now you probably wonder where that energy comes from, isn't there a chance to run out of fuel, and for how long a person could actually stay without food. It happens that on average humans have close to 40,000 calories stored in form of body fat. Many studies have shown that same amount could easily last for an entire month of fasting. When a person fasts, his or her body begins utilizing those calories as primary fuel source. After completely exhausting the previously ingested carbohydrates, which by the way at very maximum are not more than 2000 calories, the body starts mobilizing fat for fuel. It takes between 24 and 48 hours for the body to burn all of the available carbohydrates, and then it starts converting the stored fat into ketones or ketone bodies. There are 3 types of ketones or ketone bodies. Those are acetoacetate in urine, acetone in breath, and beta-hydroxybutyrate in the blood. While the first two the body excretes through breath and urine, the last it uses as fuel. That state is called nutritional ketosis, but I'm pretty sure that in 2018 everybody, including my cat, already know that. Besides sucking a lot of my energy, eating frequent meals was also taking good chunk of my time. It varies from person to person, but it required me roughly around 15 minutes to sit down and eat relatively small meal. Although adding some time for preparation was making the minutes 20 or in some cases 25, that was not all. Call it an OCD, but I personally can't stand walking around and doing things while also having bits of food in between my teeth. I simply hate that thing with passion. And because of that I have a teeth cleaning ritual which I do every time after eating something. Depends on how much and what kind of meats I've eaten, the ritual could take me close to 10 minutes. Summing things up shows that eating 4 meals was automatically stealing up to 2 hours and 20 minutes of my day, and that having a conventional bodybuilding regimen, or in other words eating 6 small meals a day, was taking me close to 3 hours and 30 minutes every single day. And that is only if I completely ignore the advices of the so-called experts who recommend having snacks between meals. Otherwise, I would probably have to dedicate most of my daily time on food consumption and teeth cleaning. By doing a quick calculation, we could find how much time is that for a week and then basically do the same for a month. Honestly, those numbers scare the shit out of me. Basically, those numbers scare me to death. And personally, I do not believe that the wife has been given to us to waste it on stupid shit like that. Thanks to fasting, I have all of that time back, therefore I am able to reinvest it in meaningful practices and other things that have real value to me. All of that while having totally better physique and truly enjoying my food. A long ago I used to believe that fasting is all about having stronger willpower, but I was terribly wrong. It appeared that being able to stay without food boils down to two things. One is having stable blood sugar levels and the others to simply not be hungry. Luckily with time I found that both of them are controllable and there are two ways to do that. The sense of hunger is triggered by a hormone called ghrelin and you can use fasting to control it. A research shows that when a person fasts for long enough, the levels of ghrelin in his or her body starts to decrease and after 3 days that person's hunger is completely gone. Which means you do not get hungrier the longer you don't eat. In fact, it's the totally opposite. The longer you abstain from food and calories, the less hungry you become. Another study shows that when people are following an intermittent fasting protocol for long enough, their bodies become accustomed to it, and eventually the desire for food during the fasting phase disappears. That also means we can actually train our bodies when to be and when to not be hungry. All we have to do is start following an intermittent fasting regimen and then eat and fast at the same exact hours every single day. What is going to happen is that after a while our bodies will start having appetite around the same exact time every single day and basically not experiencing any hunger during our fasting phases. If you want to find out more about what I just told you, I highly encourage you to visit Dr. Jason Fung's website. I'll leave links in the description box down below. And just in case you simply want to learn more about fasting, I believe the best thing you can do is to get your hands on that book, The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung, MD, and Jimmy Moore. This is one of my favorite books when it comes to nutrition and not overall self-help or Star Wars. So get your hands on that book, The Complete Guide to Fasting. Although it could be fairly unpleasant for a while, apparently controlling hunger through fasting produces fantastic results. Yet I had no idea about any of that stuff back in 2014, and how I took control over my hunger was mostly by accident. Despite I was addicted to food, fasting became effortless almost immediately after I started eating high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet. As if by magic my cravings disappeared and I started reducing the duration of my feeding window because that started feeling so natural. As I've mentioned back then, I pretty much had no idea of what was going on inside my body, but later I found what exactly made fasting so easy for me. It happened that the processed sugars and the other rich in carbohydrate foods actually elevate the levels of ghrelin twice after eating a meal, which means that eating those foods was actually making me hungrier than I previously was. Besides that, I also learned about the hormone called cholecystokinin, aka CCK. Same massively suppresses the production of ghrelin. A controlled study showed that people injected with CCK experienced less desire to eat and also reduced the amounts of food they consume. Cholecystokinin is released when there is an increase of ketone bodies or free fatty acids, and that is exactly what happens when a person goes on a high-fat, low-carb/ketogenic diet. So what happened was that my diet and my fasting both freed me of my hunger, because when I went on a ketogenic diet I was eating only 2 meals and I was doing the 8-16, okay? Despite I no longer eat a ketogenic diet year round, I still believe that is the most powerful tool one could use to stabilize blood sugar levels, get rid of cravings, and basically start fasting effortlessly. I think that it not only mimics fasting, but actually prepares the body for it. Fasting promotes neurogenesis. That means we grow new brain cells when we fast. Studies show that fasting reduces the chances of developing both Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. Not consuming food and calories boosts cognitive function and reduces inflammation. It helps the body to deal with stress and the brain to grow new neurons, nerve cells, and mitochondria. Two very important things I've learned during my fasting journey are that, first of all, I'm not as distracted as I previously thought I was, and the second one is that being sharp as fuck and being able to stay focused to the maximum, both of those things, for me personally, they start with not consuming any calories. And just in case you wonder, that includes MCT oil or brain octane oil or grass-fed butter or any butter, okay? I also found a much more efficient way to hack my coffee without adding calories and basically without ending my fast. I really don't know about the others, but fasting is crucial to my brain performance. And by fasting, I mean like plain fasting, okay? To me, there is no wonder why fasting became hit in Silicon Valley. The feel of fasting is like being on a very light and gentle, yet awesome stimulant or nootropic. Eating food, on the other hand, is a fucking downer, which quickly puts me into slow-mo, and obviously that affects my thought processing as well. However, I really don't think that the mental clarity I'm experiencing comes from the hunger itself. Actually, when hungry, I'm definitely sharper, but I'm distracted, and therefore I'm not able to take advantage of it. To me, the combination of the following things is what truly gives me that mental clarity during my fasting phase. Instead of storing it, my body is using the energy that is already available, my brain runs on ketones, I feel light and even fly due to the fact my stomach is empty, and finally I'm not distracted with food and hunger. Not eating food also makes me incomparably much happier, more satisfied and genuine. Due to that, I am able to appreciate and enjoy my day a lot more. Do I think the food choices still make difference, or do I think the food choices still matter when someone is following an intermittent fasting protocol? Well, I believe they certainly do. Despite all of its benefits, I really don't think fasting could turn a shitty food into a good one. Although I eat only once per day, my body still needs the proper nutrients to recover from my training and eventually grow. I need some high quality proteins to build muscle and some carbs or fats for energy. Eating junk while staying skinny fat was never a goal of mine. I do what I do for completely different purposes. I want to feel, look and perform in very specific ways and attain all of it naturally, which means I want to be as muscular and as lean as I can while feeling amazing and being able to stay focused on my daily tasks. All of that while avoiding nootropics and stimulants and by any means staying away from steroids and recreational drugs. I also don't have time nor desire to deal with cravings, therefore I carefully pick and prepare the foods I consume. Regardless of my fasting regimen, not doing things in that manner always gives me the following side effects. A. I'm not getting the results I want in terms of muscle gains, recovery and brain performance. B. I feel like shit, have lower levels of satisfaction and my mood suffers. And C. Bonus, I also get some cravings on the next day. Completely free of hunger and cravings, I realized that food is really not that exciting as I thought it was for close to 23 years. Since there are so many truly exciting things to preoccupy my existence, nowadays I couldn't even imagine spending my precious time during the day on it. Luckily, I also feel no need to do so. I am very proud to say that I no longer look on food as an entertainment, but as fuel and building blocks for my brain and body. Therefore, I no longer get excited about the actual eating/chewing process, nor about the way a meal looks, but about the following things. How it's going to make me feel on the next day, what kind of a pumps I'll get when training because of it, the gains I will make, how lean I'm gonna be able to stay if I eat that food, my brain performance during my fasting on the next day, the quality of the food products used during the preparation. And in regards to that, I'll also say that I'm most definitely not a foodie, but a food snob. I think people eat frequent meals because they look on food as an entertainment, an easy accessible drug or distraction they use to escape the boredom in their lives. But I guess that is exactly what the $1 million food companies want. That hunger, however, is really not physical but psychological, and many scientists call it hedonic hunger. I surely enjoy my eating process, but that certainly is not because of the food consumption by itself, but because of things like spending time with my family and or watching Netflix or BMX videos. Removing them, on the other hand, makes my eating plain and really not that interesting. Therefore, I'll probably not want to do it at all. And here, guys, I'll share with you a little discovery I've made. Although I eat my meal around 8 p.m, not preparing it before 5 or 6 p.m. makes me lose interest in doing it, which means I'll not do it and skip an entire day of eating. Then I'll go straight to bed on empty stomach, and just in case you wonder, that automatically turns into 48-hour fast. I believe what massively helped me reaching that point was the combination of my fasting regimen and my diet. Together they allowed me to live life without any restrictions, limitations and moderation. Apart of the restriction of my feeding window, there were few things that changed during the course of my close to 5-year intermittent fasting journey. The first one was that I switched from a completely ketogenic meat and eggs diet to a lot more palatable way of eating. No, I never mix carbs with fats, but I started cycling things. Now I alternate between periods when I eat strictly ketogenic diet with ones when I eat remarkably high in resistant starch paleo diet. Although I still believe high fat low carb is the best for those new to fasting, I as well learned that the same may not always be true for bodybuilders, crossfitters and other athletes. The two books which made me rethink my take on carbs were Ashley Tudor's Sweet Potato Power and Rob Wolf's Wired to Eat. By the way, I highly encourage you to get your hands on both of those books if you're interested in learning more about nutrition and all of that good stuff. In the past, and especially during my first year of OMAD, I had some inexplicable yet great excitement about frequently checking my blood sugar levels. Due to that, I was doing it all day every day. However, during 2017, my curiosity about those numbers started fading away and it finally disappeared. Now that thing rarely comes to my head. True to be told, I was surprised to find out how much can I save from not buying test strips for my glucose meter. The third change happened at the very end of 2017. Despite I hated it for so many years, my body simply began wanting to do cardio. Yet that doesn't mean I'm wasting my time on the treadmill. I do high intensity interval training on a stationary bike and my sessions never last more than 10 or 15 minutes at the very maximum. Although that certainly happens, increasing the fat burning processes in my body is not the reason why I do it. I do it because it makes me feel better, more alert, and it also improves my endurance for when I do my high volume resistance training at the gym. Due to the fact I do it right after I wake up, I also feel like it makes my body start using the nutrients from my meal on the previous day almost immediately, but that could be some sort of a placebo effect. The last change happened at the very beginning of 2018. That was the remarkable decrease of my appetite. Somehow I started getting full a lot quicker and with a lot less food, and due to that I started adding few scoops of protein to my meal. Now let's talk about meal timing. Do I believe the meal timing makes difference? Well, at least to me it surely does, because all I want to do after eating is sit back, relax, watch a little bit of Netflix and then go straight to bed. Breaking my fast puts my body into completely different mode and my motivation and desire of doing anything immediately disappear. We've been taught for decades that the breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now some studies suggest humans are actually nocturnal eaters due to the fact that our ancient ancestors, the paleo men, were hunting during the day and eating at night. Other studies, however, say that higher insulin levels could prevent melatonin, the sleep hormone, from doing its job. Therefore, avoiding food prior to bedtime could improve sleep quality. So, when to eat and when to fast? Honestly, I think you should find that thing on your own. I found that going through my day with food in my stomach is not only very unpleasant, but also extremely counterproductive to all of my crafts and whole lifestyle. Despite we can train ourselves when to be and when to not be hungry, it is almost not possible for me to sense any hunger during the day, or at least it is as long as I do not consume junk or other craving causing foods. When in the past I was doing the 8-16 with the steaks and eggs diet, I was technically training myself to always be hungry for lunch. But I guess my body simply refused to be trained in that manner because, first of all, I was never hungry for lunch, I was almost always hungry for dinner, and I was always trying to push my fasting window even further in order to, if not skip it entirely, at least eat my lunch later. Not eating started feeling so natural, and that was exactly how I started transforming my 8-16 into OMAD. Thought that going to bed on full stomach was bad. When I was eating frequent meals, I pretty much always avoided having the last one at least 2 hours prior bedtime. Back then I was having a lot of difficulties when trying to fall asleep at night, and as a result I was oversleeping on the next day and my mornings were total mess. However, things changed almost as soon as I started doing the completely opposite, which means eating one big meal around bedtime. I not only began falling asleep in a matter of minutes, but accordingly to the sleep trackers on my phone, my body started entering the deepest phases of sleep a lot quicker. As a side effect, I began needing less sleep, and depends on what I've eaten, to often either have lucid or vivid dreams. Apart of feeling most natural, that is also the schedule to make the most sense to me. I have my whole day to dedicate on my projects, daily tasks, of course to train, or in other words to live my life, and then when I'm ready to settle down and call it a day, I eat food and then I go to the bed. Simple as that. In the past I thought I had very shitty for bodybuilding genetics, and that in order to have visible abs and just a bit of vascularity, I had to stay on extremely low calories. I also thought that due to the fact I'm 6.4 with fairly long and heavy bones, I'll never be able to truly become muscular, lean and full. Usually being tired, back then I was never able to hit the gym more than 5 times a week. And just in case you're still not getting it, regardless of how strict about my calories, 6 small meals a day and 4x12 routines I was not happy at all with the results I was getting. The increase of my energy undoubtedly reflected on everything in my life, and that of course included my training. Although at first I was a bit scared to start doing it, my body simply began wanting to train more. Afraid of losing my gains, my primary concern was about not becoming catabolic. After all, the following was another thing I've been taught for years. Fasting makes people catabolic, but eating food every 2 to 3 hours prevents the catabolic processes and builds muscle. Yet, I was more than pleased to find out that the same statement not only couldn't be further from the truth, but it was actually made up by food and supplement companies. It not only appeared that the ketone bodies are very muscle sparing, but that in order to build muscle, the body has to alternate between periods of fasting and feeding. The first is important for optimal hormonal production, but during the second, the body gets the needed nutrients with the food that is ingested. While eating food shuts down its production, fasting elevates the levels of growth hormone, and only a simple 24-hour fast can boost person's growth hormone by 2000%. Other studies show that refraining from food and calories can increase the levels of both testosterone and its precursor hormone, luteinizing hormone aka LH. On top of everything, it also lowers insulin, and that becomes a sure recipe for some serious fat burning. Despite not many people talk about it, fasting has been used by legendary bodybuilders like Vince Gironda, Frank Zane, Mohamed Makavi, and of course Serge Nubret, who inspired me to start eating 1 meal a day. So what happened? Despite I drastically upped my calories and later stopped tracking them at all, I got lean and hard. My physique not only got much fuller, but I started adding size in a lot more symmetrical and proportional manner. Probably due to the fact it no longer has to constantly process, digest and store food, my body started making really good use of the one I'm ingesting with my one meal a day. The previously completely unavailable to me vacuums became effortless, and now they're even not that painful. My training also changed. Instead of being afraid to hit a body part more than once a week, nowadays I exercise all of them very frequently. Although I never lift heavy and actually barely use any resistance on some of the movements I do, very often that frequently means hitting the gym twice a day. My body clearly showed me that in order to get the best results, I not only have to stick to certain foods while alternating between really long fasts and very short feeding windows, but as well to train in a very specific manner. One specially designed to throw the already floating in my bloodstream nutrients from my meal on the previous day into my muscle cell. Due to that, I train for one thing and one thing only, and that is getting nastier and crazier pumps. The way I do it is by having frequent yet very short and intense sessions during which I strive to maintain prolonged periods of time under tension by mostly using isolation movements. Or in other words, I keep constant tension on an isolated area while barely resting between the sets. Doing things in that manner, and of course doing all of the things with the OMAD and my dad, helped me realize two things. A, my genes are much better than I thought, and B, by eating frequent meals, I was simply not allowing my body to do its best when it comes to building muscle and developing specific proportions and symmetry. As a little conclusion, I'll say that I made and continue making my best gains by following a lifestyle only made of banned by the fitness industry and the conventional wisdom things. Eating one meal a day, but sometimes having not more than total of 5 or 6 per week, doing 2 fasted workouts almost every day, barely taking supplements, never doing PRs nor heavy weights, while rarely messing with the 3 big lifts. Always using light to moderate weight, while sometimes doing sets of up to 30 reps, and finally never restricting myself. And here guys, I'll do this quick side note. Apart of everything I've already told you, I also never felt better. However, I really don't think that is only because of my intermittent fasting or my one meal a day plan. I believe it is because of its combination with the diets that I use and with the fact that I stayed on NoFap for the same exact period of time. To me, all of those things are equally important, and I personally do not believe I would be able to get the same exact results if I wasn't using them together. I really wanted to make that thing clear. I truly believe that fasting, and particularly the one meal a day plan, is one of the things that people could use to immensely improve their whole existence, and that includes mood, brain performance, health, physique and overall appearance. When combined with proper diet, daily exercise and NoFap, it could easily provide one with healthy and sustainable alternative to things like stimulants, nootropics, steroids and other pharmaceuticals. I hope that makes sense. So yeah guys, that was everything I wanted to say in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please do not hesitate and click on the thumbs up button down below. Maybe subscribe to my YouTube channel or maybe even share the video. I'ma wrap it up for now. I would like to thank you for watching this video. Please stay tuned for more. Have a nice one. Peace and I'm out, and do the intermittent fasting and keep flexing. Peace.